Ritlock and small children don't mix. This is why we can't have nice things. Howdy, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Tyria Talk. My name is Richard Procopio, aka Bug Otter, and this show is all about Guild Wars 2. Today is episode number 63, and today I'm going to be discussing the Megaserver technology, which is the last big feature that is coming into the feature pack on April 15th to Guild Wars 2. So, what is a Megaserver? Well, currently how the game works right now is you are assigned a home server, right? I'm on the Blackgate server, so when I try to go to different maps in Guild Wars 2, like Keswick's Hills, they try to put me on Blackgate's Keswick's Hills first and foremost. And now if Blackgate's Keswick's Hills is full, there's too many players there, they will put me on an overflow server. And overflow servers are shared cross server, so I could be on an overflow with people from all different servers, and that's just how the game works. Once the mega server concept has been introduced and fully rolled out, you're no longer going to there's no longer going to be a Keswick's Hills for Blackgate. There's just going to be Keswick's Hills instances, and you're going to be assigned a Keswick's Hill map. And if that one is full, you might go to another one. There's no longer going to be overflows, and there's no longer going to be ones tied to specific servers. Now, how do they choose which one you go to? Well, there's a number of factors, and they actually try to match you up based on the most favorable factors. For example, if you're currently in a party, that will rank fairly high for getting you onto a map with your other party members. Same thing with people that are in a guild. Okay, do you have like 10 guild members that are walking around a specific map of Keswick's Hills? Well, they're going to try to assign you to that one first and foremost. It's also going to factor in things like what languages is your client defaulting to. So people that are all German speaking will have a higher chance of going to a German speaking map. So with this technology, it's not going to do anything with North America versus EU realms. They're still going to be separate databases. You're not going to be able to cross-play regions. But what does this do? Why are they doing this? Well, it makes it so that lower population maps suddenly seem like they have more players in them, right? If they have, I don't know off the top of my head how many servers there are, but let's say there's 30 different servers for North America. If each one of those servers has a Keswick's Hills map in it, well, there's going to be 30 maps, and it's going to spread everybody that's in Keswick's Hills throughout those maps. With this mega server technology, let's say there's only enough people in Keswick's Hills to justify 3 maps. So the entire population across all 30 servers gets squished down to 3. Now you're going to be in 3 different Keswick's Hills maps, and there's going to be a lot of players there interacting, doing the events, and leveling up their characters, or doing what happens to be going on in that zone. So what you should feel as a player wandering around in Guild Wars 2 is you should feel the impact of that in terms of there's more players to actually do things with. Now, what's interesting about this is way back, and I mentioned this on social media when this blog post came out about Megaservers. Way back in one of the earlier Tyria Talk episodes, before the game even launched, I actually talked about this concept because it seemed like with the fact that you could guest, the fact that you could chat cross-server, the fact that you could run dungeons with people from other servers, it really seemed like the game was going towards a serverless design. And the one thing that was holding them back was World versus World, because World versus World is like the opposite of that. World versus World, it's all about what is your home server, because you want that server pride and you want to be able to fight people from the other servers. So it seemed like the whole concept of Guild Wars 2 was this great serverless design, except for World versus World. So it's cool that they're kind of embracing that and taking it the next step further. It's going to take a while to roll all of this out. They have a plan that they're going to start with just the level 1 to 15 zones and the PvP lobby, I believe. So that's what you're going to see as the April 15th patch. And then after they make sure that it's working correctly, long term they'll start rolling it out across the whole game. So I do think that there are some benefits that you're going to get out of this. There's also, if it doesn't work correctly, if there's like technical hurdles, hopefully they've had a lot of time to test this and it rolls out smoothly. Because one thing that's just really frustrating, and it happens from time to time already, like for example in the Battle for Lion's Arch, you'd have a group of 5 people and you'd zone in to the Battle of Lion's Arch, and 3 people would make it to one instance and 2 people would make it to a different one, and then you have to right click their portraits and try to join on them and stuff like that. So hopefully the mechanic that takes place to actually figure out which instance you should be in works out well, so that it automatically puts you in with party members, automatically puts you in with guild members, and so you don't have that kind of constant struggle there, because that would just be annoying, especially when running like something like guild missions. Like right now, my guild does guild missions once a week, and we don't really have problems with this because most of the maps we're going to aren't very populated. So we'll go to like Gandharan Fields or Brisbane Wildlands or something, and it'll be the Blackgate version of it because there's no overflows for those maps. And switching over to this technology, if we're constantly, because sometimes we have 3 or 4 groups worth of people running the guild missions, we're not going to be in the same party. If we're teleporting all over the world and constantly in the wrong instance and not being able to do guild missions together, that's going to get really frustrating really quickly. So I like the concept. I like the potential benefits I see when you're like running around the world and seeing more people. That's awesome. But if it's not technically sound and doesn't put you in the right place, then it's going to be a nightmare, and you'll see quite a reaction from players as a result of that. So I'm going to jump into the actual blog post where they actually talked about how this affects like world bosses and some other things like that. So I just wanted to kind of show you a couple things real quick in that regard to kind of cover the bases. All right, so the world bosses are definitely going to be impacted by this because right now you actually have some websites and stuff like that look at the API strings, and they actually pull information like, all right, so when is Tequatl spawning on Blackgate? When is Tequatl spawning on Jade's Quarry? When is the Shatterer spawning on Emery Bay? So you have these things, and you could actually hunt down different bosses that were spawning on different servers. Well, with this new system, since there's not going to be server-specific maps, that whole thing is out the window. So the way that they actually have done this is they've created a schedule, and now bosses are going to spawn on all maps according to a schedule. Now you can see here they put the bosses in 3 different categories. Hardcore mega organized events are like the Tequatl, Jungle Worm, and Karka Queen, and they kind of spread out these spawns, so they actually spawn in a window that starts every 8 hours. And so every 8 hours there's a 3-hour window where these 3 bosses will spawn, so that guilds that really are organized and want to bang all of these out right in a row, they can actually do that. And I'll show you the schedule in a minute. Then there's standard world events. These are a set of 6 world events is comprised of the original world event content that has been available since Guild Wars 2. One of these events will begin on the hour and half hour in a repeating rotation. And then there's low-level world events. And because players at low levels are more restricted in their choice of content, they want these to actually spawn more often. And if we look down at the schedule here, they have Pacific time, Eastern time, and then Central European time. And you can actually go to the Guild Wars website and you can see all of this. But you can see each one of the events spawns multiple times a day, and hopefully players will be fairly happy with this. Now, the one negative side of having a schedule like this is, let's say you have a weird work schedule, and really the only times you can play are a specific time that doesn't include some of these bosses. Let's say you can play from Mega Destroyer time here to the Jungle Worm right here. So maybe that's your only play window. Every single day it's the same time. Well, then these are the only bosses you're ever going to encounter. So that's one potential downside of this mechanic, is there's no rotation with it. It is a set schedule, so people who have a set scheduled playtime are going to see the same bosses over and over again. So that's something I've seen people kind of mention. I think it's a valid complaint, but I don't know what kind of solution you can really come up with. I do think that if players have a flexible schedule, then this works quite well, because it's you can know what to expect from these bosses when you can actually organize things better with your guild. And so I do think that overall, it's probably the best way that they can handle it, despite it being challenging from some players. So there's also going to be some boss updates. Some of the bosses on the schedule have had their difficulty scaled, and some of the event chains surrounding them, and some of their abilities have even been updated. Now that sounds like to me that they've become more challenging. I'm hoping that's going to be more challenging now that you can reliably have more people interacting with them. Like, because currently, I don't know if you were on one of the lower population servers, and if you were on Darkhaven, for example, and the one of the lower level bosses, like the fire elemental spawns or something like that, how many players were actually there trying to take it out? So they probably had to tune the difficulty to make it kind of easy for even lesser people to take it out. But now, every time the fire elemental spawns, it's going to have a lot of people there because it's going to be a conglomeration of all the people of all the servers trying to get into that one map and stuff like that. So hopefully it scales it, makes it more difficult. All right, another feature that they're adding is something called Guild World Events. This is something that your guild can unlock. You have to be able to unlock the Guild World Events upgrade, which is only available after you've already researched guild challenges. So if you already have all the guild missions opened up, you should immediately be able to start doing Guild World Events, or at least researching Guild World Events. If you have about a week now to start stockpiling some of that guild influence, we don't know how much it's going to cost. But basically, let's say you want to schedule a Karka Queen or a Tequatl run or a Great Jungle Worm run with your guild, but none of the times that are scheduled work for your guild. Well, this is a way for you to actually spawn it on demand for your guild. So you could say, hey, you know what? We want to do Jungle Worm at 7 p.m. Our time, and we're going to launch this. So you're going to actually be able to use a Guild World event consumable and spawn these bosses on demand. Now, the guild officer with permission is going to be able to do that, and the biggest limitation around this is you can't spawn like the Jungle Worm when it's close to the actual Jungle Worm spawn time. You don't want it to like reset or run into it. There's a whole bunch of technical things that would probably prevent that from happening. So they allow you they gave you certain times that you can do this and certain times you can't based on that. Now, what I like about this is this is back when the Jungle Worm first came out, I actually kind of complained a little bit the fact that I would love to see some way for guilds to be able to run the Jungle Worm themselves, right? And it's hard to kind of rely on the spawn counter. You have once you fail, you have 2 hours. That you have to wait before you can try again, and it was hard to get all of your guild members in one map. So this is one step closer to having a situation that I described before. I would still rather it be something where your guild can have their own slice of this and your own instance of it, so that you can try, and that you could just continually try until you get the boss down. But this is a step in the right direction. It does seem like if you get a lot of these Guild World event consumables, you can try maybe in rapid succession, as long as you're not interfering with the actual spawn, the normal spawn window for that boss. The other downside is these bosses are still going to require a lot of people, right? The Jungle Worm is still going to have over 100 people required for it. So my guild, who does guild missions with about 15 or so people, we're not going to be able to spawn Tequatl and Jungle Worm and take these things out ourselves. We're still going to need to rely on mass groups of people, and I would assume that some members of the community love that. They still like the fact that you need that many people in order to take some of these down. I don't know. I'm still holding out hope for some larger group content that you can do in an instance environment with your guild. Some 10-person things, or 15-person or 20-person things that you can do in Guild Wars 2. So this isn't exactly that, but I do like that they're putting this in there for guilds. Another feature for guilds to unlock and actually work towards. And I know that some of the guilds, guilds that actually go out and do these big scale events are going to be happy with some of these Guild World events in there. There's another impact that goes on with this mega server technology that I just want to mention real quick. It has to do with contested waypoints. Previously, or currently you can actually see across your home server, like your Blackgate server, you can see which waypoints are contested and which ones are not, even if you're not on that current map. That's no longer going to be the case because it's going to be, serverless. There's no longer a home server, so you can't tell if a waypoint is contested or not. What they're going to do is make it so that any waypoint that can be contested is going to be contested, and you can't teleport to them. What you're going to have to do is go to a waypoint on the map that's not contested, and then check once you're on that map to see if you can kind of teleport to a dungeon or whatnot. So that's a disadvantage. I don't like that necessarily, but I understand why that is a problem, and this is probably one of those cases where this is the best solution that they have. So I just wanted to mention there because it is going to be something that's going to impact folks, but I don't see a way that they can kind of get around it given what they're doing here. And lastly, they put up another blog post about the future of this system. And I did mention that they're only rolling this out to level 1 to 15 maps to start and the PvP lobby. Oh, and major cities. I forgot to mention that before. So later on, they're going to do it to bigger maps or more populated maps. So, but in the future, what they want to do with this is make it so guilds are just completely cross-server. So currently, right now, you can have people in your guild from different servers, but there's kind of like a different instance of that guild on that server. So if I'm on Blackgate and you're on Jade Quarry and we're in the same guild, well, you're earning influence on the Jade Quarry's version of our guild, and I'm going to earn influence on the Blackgate version of my guild. And it's kind of separate and it's a little bit awkward. It's going to remain that way post this patch, but they are hinting here that the future is you will simply have one guild. And I think that's a really good thing for the game, that you could just have players up to a limit of 500 cross-server, and you all are earning influence for one major guild. I think that's going to be a great change when they're able to jump over that technical hurdle and make that happen. So that's really cool. And they did say that World versus World, is entirely based on you having a home server and you're competing against other servers. And they say here, as such, we have no plans to remove this concept from World vs. World. It's not saying that it will never happen, but right now they have no plans to. So they're going to go into very specific details about these changes as they approach the launch of the system game-wide. But they wanted to give a head start on the messaging since it's going to raise questions. So it does kind of leave it open that they might be changing up how World vs. World works. I still think, like they mentioned there, that it kind of needs that server pride thing is very important to the people of World versus World. So I don't see them changing that in the near future. But it could be the type of thing where everybody's kind of assigned or they get to pick where their allegiance lies, and then it kind of does some sort of matchmaking with the World versus World season. So we may see the game go more and more serverless as time goes on. It's just going to be interesting to see how they implement all of that. So before I go, I just wanted to mention one last public service announcement. Since the 15th patch is coming out, in about a week, and the wardrobe system is going in place, all of the skins that you've unlocked on PvE or PvP kind of gets unlocked across your entire account. So now is the time, if you have any PvP crafting materials that you got from salvaging any PvP gear, or if you have salvage kits and PvP gear that is like duplicate or extra, you want to go in there and start salvaging and use the Mystic Forge to create as many different skins as you can before the wardrobe system comes out, because at that point you're going to be able to have those unlocked across your account. Another thing that I saw as a tip on Reddit, let's say you have a skin unlocked on the PvE side already. Let's say you have something you're holding onto, I'm blanking on a good example, but like a nightmare sword or something like that. And you also have that in your PvP locker, a nightmare sword in there. Well, those duplicates are only going to, once you unlock it across your account, it's unlocked. You don't need two of them. So you can actually take the nightmare sword that you have in PvP, salvage it down, and then actually use the Mystic Forge to create new versions of it. It's just a way to try to unlock as many skins as you can before the patch comes out. Well, that's going to wrap things up. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Tyria Talk. If you did, I'd appreciate you taking the 3 or 4 seconds it would take to actually like and favorite this video. Also, post any questions that you have in the comments field below, and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when future videos are released. If you want to find out information on how you can support my work and become an Otter, there is a link to my Patreon page down below. I'd appreciate you checking it out. I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye! Okay.